Good evening, folks. How are we all tonight? Before we begin, I'd like to thank you all for coming. Oftentimes when dealing with a moment in history, we tend to forget the individuals that were truly affected by the events themselves. It is with this in mind I'd like to take you back to the year 2018. It was a time of great uncertainty within our fine country, and dissatisfaction was heavy on the hearts of most. However, I'm not here to make sense of complex national ideologies. Instead, I'm here to tell the story of a woman. A woman who left her country when she was just 10 years old. She left her country to board a ship, the Empire Windrush, which you may have heard of. Her memories of a said place are few and far between. Her mind is too full of the 60 years spent in this country, her motherland. She now lives alone in a flat in London. To some outsiders, it might not seem like much, but to her it's home. Oftentimes with old age, she spends a lot of it by herself watching the news. Recently though, it's been causing her more concern with stories on acts of racism being reported. She begins to wonder if her own citizenship is in question. And this begins to grow in her every day, until one day it appears on her doorstep in the form of a letter that contains so much fear that she's unable to see through it. She's been told to leave. To those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. She is going mad, pleading her case with only reason on her side. But what good is reason when no one around her seems to care? No phone calls made or letters sent can make any difference. She's been told to leave this country and go back to a place she can barely remember. A country where she's a stranger. She's a stranger in her own home. I can't help but to think about this story and many others like it and what it says about our society. They say that things have changed. I really hope they have. I can think of no greater shame than this to have happened, only for it to happen all over again.
Yeah, this show is called The Unbelievable Truth. And yeah, it's made up of pieces that I made while I was studying in Bournemouth. I was studying photography, and it's kind of, I guess, like the start of me sort of taking notice of myself and my surroundings and sort of trying to figure out how I kind of fitted into the spaces I was in, like being in a sort of predominantly white university and predominantly white town, with a lot less diversity than I would have been used to when I lived here. So yeah, I started reading race theory and like reading bell hooks and wanting to make work about that. And so there's like a video called 3C, which is me sat still with a bunch of white hands playing with my hair, and that was the first piece I made. I think that was like a self-portrait piece, and that was, yeah, I guess addressing like my identity and how I felt about, I guess in that time it was quite common for people, especially in nightclubs and in Bournemouth, to be quite fascinated by my hair. It's weird how like these things, I guess, become sort of in the public consciousness, because I think now like that would seem immediately bizarre. At the time I like don't think it did at all, really. I don't think it's something people had thought about unless it was something that happened to them, really. And then yeah, the Solange album came out I think in 2016 as well, so I guess that was what really got the ball rolling in terms of people talking about it and having that conversation about like black hair. And yeah, obviously the song Don't Touch My Hair is quite direct in what it means, and the sort of, yeah, I guess I was pretty influenced by it. The second video is called Call Me Kelly, and I made it I think the year after 3C. And yeah, it was me sort of starting to explore kind of theatrics and sort of performativity, and I was started to become quite interested in black hair and the sort of performative nature of it. And I think that, you know, being a black woman, I think it was more almost the sort of the norm to have a weave or to relax your hair from the offset. Like, I had my hair relaxed when I was a kid a couple times, and yeah, I just started thinking about that and kind of why that is, and I wanted to explore that through, yeah, kind of dressing up and putting on different wigs and seeing how I felt in each of them, and whether they kind of made me feel like more myself or like a different person, and kind of what that says about the kind of act of it, I guess. I was starting to think about exhibiting the work again. I was sort of thinking about trying to kind of reimagine it a bit and what I'd want to bring to it now. And yeah, I brought some kids' relaxer boxes to display along with the work. And I think I had a picture of the relaxer box that I used, like, saved from when I was working on the project originally in uni. I just always thought there's something quite sad about the girl's expression on the box. It's like she's like smiling, but it seems like a sort of a forced smile. And I remember from when I got my hair relaxed, it is like really painful because it is just chemicals being used on your hair. Yeah, when you start breaking it down and like talking about it, it's like quite a strange thing, because obviously you can do it in different levels, so it would be just slightly straighter, or kind of normally it would be deemed as easier to manage, or kind of fully straight. I think when I was younger, one time I had it just put on my hair just to sort of make it a bit more manageable. I don't remember being asked. It was like a family member did it, probably just to help out with me being able to do my hair. Yeah. And then when I was maybe 14, I went to get a curly perm because I wanted like looser, sort of bouncier, more sort of straightish curls. And what I didn't know then was that you're absolutely never meant to wash your hair the day before you get your hair relaxed, because of, I guess, how strong the chemicals are. You almost want the dirt in your hair to kind of protect it. They tell you, you know, if it starts to hurt, then let them know. But I was a very meek, polite child, so I just sort of sat there while it like burned, and my fringe burned off, basically. Yeah. There's a chemical that some relaxers use those ones don't. So on all of the relaxer boxes it says no lie, spelled Lye. So all of them say no lie on them, which I thought was quite funny. And I think that's kind of where I got the title for the show from. So yeah, I brought in some of the wigs that I used when I was doing the performance videos. If between two islands is where I'm from, I'm going to swim from here to Mount Pearl so I can finally belong. I have been thinking for a while about the Jamaican patty. Since learning about the food's complex roots, I've become more and more intrigued by the patty's ubiquity within Caribbean culture. And if there even is a shared culture between these islands, or just between those who leave them. The gaps between the islands seem to get smaller the further away you get. Maybe this is why people have come to view them as a monolith, or have just looked to Jamaica to be the key representative of the group. I found something I wrote a while ago. 492 people from various Caribbean islands travelled to Tilbury Docks. At what point on the journey did they become West Indians? I've been longing to feel rooted to the place that half of me belongs to understand the warmth I feel when I hear someone speaking in an accent that reminds me of a home I've never been to. On this search for home, I had decided to film the cooks making patties at my local Caribbean takeaway. I had pictured black hands tenderly kneading dough, with love pouring out of them as they prepare this meal for their customers. But when I spoke to the owner, she told me that they don't make the patties in store and sent me instead to a factory in Wembley to uncover the true taste of the Caribbean. When I arrived, I found conveyor belts where I had imagined hands would be, and machines that moved at a rhythmic pace, producing perfect Jamaican patties, one after another. On my second visit, I began to see this factory as a kind of transient space, with its machines constantly moving, each one facilitating the journey of the patty as it travels through the space. The offcuts the machines produced had begun to look like waves, or maybe I had just been staring at patties for too long. It's lunchtime now, and the factory manager kindly offers me a beef patty to taste. I take a bite, and for a brief moment I'm transported to memories of childhood, though it's not a childhood I recognise. Somehow, I must accept this longing to be rooted as an effect of the history that has brought me into being. And maybe the home I'm longing for will always feel slightly out of reach. Pockets of it exist around me, hidden in plain sight. And if I piece all of these fragments together, maybe I can build an island of my own. I, much like the Jamaican patty, exists as a product of all the things I'm so desperate to escape from. And maybe all of my escape attempts have been doomed because of this. There is, however, a strange beauty to the fact that we took your food and injected it with spice and flavours that come from our land, or the land you took us to, and made it so that when you came to try, you complained that it wasn't to your taste, and asked if we had any cold milk to wash away the burn. The Caribbean shop can offer a momentary escape. It operates under its own rules, which everyone understands, and if you don't, you soon will. But still, I long for something deeper. This taste of the Caribbean is no longer satisfying. My stomach remains unfull. Still, I can't help but wonder how I'll be treated when I finally get to Jamaica, and if I'll seem different from any other holiday goer when I emerge from the plane. I know I must accept this possibility, though I'd hate to discover that I was other in their eyes as well. I'm on my way home now, and I stop off for a patty at my local Caribbean shop. The woman behind the counter asks if I found what I was looking for. I think for a second before replying yes.